North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark
Woo!
Robinson. So
Mm,
what's interesting about this is that I wrote about him in my book, The Grift, The Downward
mm-hmm.
Spiral of Black Republicans from the Party of Lincoln to the Cult of Trump. You could see it behind me. I was ringing the alarm
Yep.
about Mark Robinson, about how dangerous he is, about how he could become the Republican nominee for governor.
Mm-hmm.
So before all this crazy stuff that's out there now, I want to remind you who Mark Robinson was. Before all the stuff we heard now, because the stuff we heard previously was just as terrible. Mark Robinson had no political experience whatsoever. That's basically the resume for the current crop of black Republicans. He was a factory worker in North Carolina. He goes viral around 2018 for making disgusting comments.
Mm-hmm.
He's quickly put on Fox News. This is literally the page from my book. This is what you have to do. They don't want Arthur Fletchers. They don't want Colin Powell's. They want Mark Robinson and Herschel Walker.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a couple of the crazy things that he said. He attacked black moviegoers for going to see Black Panther and said Black Panther was created by an agnostic Jew and put to film by a satanic Marxist. He also said that he called Michelle Obama a man, called her ghetto, and said the former first lady emanates the stench of human waste.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He made insults about Taylor Swift, called her trailer shift. I mean, I could go on and on the disgusting things that he said. Nonetheless, he was elected lieutenant governor of North Carolina, beating out Dr. Jason Johnson, a bunch of white conservatives
Mm-hmm.
who had a much better resume,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
beat out by a landslide the GOP primary to be governor. All right, so the GOP knew exactly who he was. But it appears there's been some outrage after CNN dropped an article. And some of the things in this is so disgusting, I just can't even say on the radio, even satellite radio.
Right.
Some of it is really, really trippy,
Yes.
allegedly. I mean, I read the full article and, bro, okay. So
Y-
here are a couple of the highlights. On a porn forum called Nude Africa,
Mm-hmm.
Nude Africa, he said things like he was a black Nazi. He said things that slavery should be reinstated. And if it was, he might buy some slaves. This is
Mm-hmm.
all allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's also been really, really against trans folks. That's been that's one of the things,
Right.
immigration, abortion, trans folks, DEI, what it was CRT, now it's DEI, right?
Mm-hmm.
But according to CNN, Robinson said on this porn forum that he enjoyed watching transgender pornography. That train is never late. It's never
You
late.
know what? Whoop whoop.
Ah, that train is always on time. It's always on
Always,
time.
not
The
always there when
lady
you call, but it's always on time.
always on time. The lady protests too much. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I don't want to get too deep into this, but he also described peeping into girls' bathrooms, women's bathrooms, rather. It's a lot.
Yep.
It's a lot. Reportedly, some folks and again, he's running for governor against Josh Stein, who I've interviewed. He's behind in the polls. I know polls are bullshit, just putting it out there. He's behind in the polls. And there were some people allegedly calling him for him to step down
Yep.
last night, meaning September 19th, because the deadline was midnight. Well, I guess he said, and I'm telling you, I'm not going.
Mm-hmm.
Let's listen briefly. Don't play the entire clip. It's not worth it. Briefly, him saying this is all lies, lies, and more lies from the leftist woke mob, and references Clarence Thomas. Listen to this.
Well, guys, the news media is at it again. My opponent is at it again. You all have seen the half-truths and outright lies of Josh Stein on these ads over and over again. And now a story leaked by him to CNN is appearing now. Let me reassure you, the things that you will see in that story, those are not the words of Mark Robinson. You know my words, you know my character, and you know that I have been completely transparent in this race and before. Folks, this race right now, our opponents are desperate to shift the focus here from the substantive issues and focus on what you are concerned with to salacious tabloid trash. We cannot allow that to happen. And folks, we've seen this type of stuff in the past as well. Clarence Thomas famously once said he was the victim of high-tech lynching. Well, it looks like Mark Robinson is too, by a man who refuses to stand on stage.
Take it down. Take it down. You know, bro, Mark, I'm sure you don't know your history, but that was the wrong reference to make.
I
take it away, Dr. Jason Johnson.
There's so much, Clay. I just want to tell you, and I want to warn all your listeners, all of your listeners. This is the one time where you might want to double check that article and that link before you share it in the group chat, because I'm in several group chats where the things that this man wrote, and I want to be clear, I don't kink shame anybody. What you into is what you into. I've been one of the people who said, hey, you know what? Diddy ain't being arrested for being a freak. Diddy is being arrested for being an abuser, right? You let your flag fly. But the way this man talked, allegedly, the way this man talked about his wife's sister, the way he described parts of her body makes me think of Get Money when I stuck it for your stash in the blank mattress. It's okay. She was old anyway. But the point being, it's the people who are most obsessed with trying to legislate and shame and marginalize and abuse anything that they do not deem to be heterosexual, normative, missionary sex are always the people engaging in this kind of behavior. And here's the thing. It'd be one thing if Mark Robinson allegedly was just talking graphically about sex. That's your own business. But you are talking graphically about an alleged affair with your wife's sister. You are supposedly, now the reports are saying, if he used the same email, allegedly, that he may have been on Ashley Madison. And I, for one, have always said, look, if you got to use an app to get a sneaky link, maybe you shouldn't be out in these cheating streets, right? Like, that should be some game you can figure out on your own. So, I mean, the shameful part about this, Clay, and I had a friend ask yesterday, like, oh my gosh, is this like an implosion of the GOP? No, it's not. What it's showing us is that Trumpism has always only worked for Trump, right? It's only worked for him. Only Trump can get away with being this vulgar, this racist. I mean, goodness gracious, calling yourself a black Nazi and then have all the moral turpitude and still have the cult follow him. And how do we know this? Because Madison Cawthorn had the same thing happen. Madison Cawthorn was the rising star, North Carolina. But the moment that there was leaked rumors that he may have engaged in some homoerotic horseplay with his college boys, and they were done with him. Eric Greitens, he was supposed to be the new shining star, pretty boy of the GOP running in the Senate in Missouri. What happened? Well, when you get accused of sleeping with an employee's wife and tying her up in the Brooklyn basement, then people don't tend to like it. So that's what's happening here. All this Trumpism stuff that he spouts doesn't work when people find out that you are, at bare minimum, sharing imaginary stories that appear to be vulgar and suggest inappropriate behavior. But if all of these things turned out to be true, he is a grotesque hypocrite. He is a gross person. He is a self-loathing individual, and he never should have gotten this damn close to any elected office. And you got people in North Carolina right now saying, damn, we got our own version of Herschel Walker.
What will be the name of their R&B group, Herschel Walker and Mark Robinson? What will be the name?
Make it rain.
They should partner up. They should partner up, I tell you.
I can see them both standing on a tarmac with their shirts open, belly exposed, as the rain comes down.
And arms wide open, singing,
Arms
hitting the
wide
notes,
open.
hitting the
Arms wide
notes.
open.
You know, it's a really good point, and one of the things that I point out in the grift
Mhm.
is that, you know, you aren't Trump, and Trump is the ultimate grifter, right?
Right.
But and we talked about this on your podcast. You can listen to my discussion with Dr. Jason Johnson back in February about the book when it first dropped. That the train runs out at a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go on another grift. They go on the apology tour.
Mm-hmm.
They start crying racism,
Right.
I mean, this then it's the redemption tour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you literally changed who you are to become somebody else, and you get exposed, and then they kick your ass out. Because the thing is, he's going to lose,
Oh,
and then when he loses, they're going to kick his ass all the way out. They're gonna completely, because they have no choice. Now I don't know. As far as doubling down in this moment, maybe they think he has a chance left in hell. But I want to read a part from my book where I quoted Ed Kilgore from New York Magazine. The more black Republicans embrace the same candidates and causes as white racists, the more they become not just acceptable, but even preferable to other GOP candidates. Absolutely agree. But here's the thing. But can you win a general election?
See, and that's
the thing.
That's the thing, Clay. We already have precedent for this,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When people are trying to find a corollary or a comparative, I joke about Herschel Walker, but what you really see with people like Mark Robinson is he's sort of a combination of Alan West and Herschel Walker, right? That kind of crazy, self-hating, loathing, bigotry stuff.
And how many times did Alan West win?
Once. Well, zero. Yeah,
oh,
really,
once.
zero. Yeah, I mean,
it was 0-0.
He got into office and then was out, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. Cannot take that nonsense to the general public. You cannot take that nonsense. Even Winsome Sears in Virginia, who is just as bad, knows how to keep her mouth quiet. Like, you don't hear her on podcasts every week saying this nonsense, but there is a ceiling. There is a black ceiling. Okay, like black ice. You may not see it, but it's there, and you're gonna slip on it, and that is as far as these people can go. And Clay, here's the thing. I don't think this is just going to be that Mark Robinson loses. I think Mark Robinson is going to be the reason that Harrison Walls win North Carolina.
Yes.
He both depresses the vote and galvanizes black people. Him staying in the race is the best thing for Harrison Walls. I think they got a bet. I've said this for 6 weeks now. I think they have a better chance of winning North Carolina than they do Georgia because of Mark Robinson.
I tell people, and this is the thing that the GOP doesn't get, when you uplift these grifters, what you don't realize is that you end up incentivizing black voters.
Yeah.
Because sometimes black voters, we have more of an issue, I don't use those terms, with black folks who all skin folk ain't kinfolk than we do with the actual white supremacists sometimes, So they don't realize that this foolishness incentivizes us to say, oh, wait a minute now. Wait a minute. This is not going to work. And then you lose.
Clay, we just saw this with David Cameron. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, David Cameron.
Daniel Cameron.
Yeah. Daniel Cameron in Kentucky. He was on his way. He was
on his way.
And he had the wife, wink, and
right.
all the things. He even had the blood sacrifice of Breonna Taylor's death on his hands. And I say that with no hesitation. Right. And he lost. And he lost to a Democrat who introduced free health care in Kentucky because black folks got together and were like, oh, no.
Hell no.
This we cannot do. This we cannot do. And that's what causes, I mean, like I said, I would put North Carolina to be much more likely to flip to Harris than what's happening with Georgia. But here's the other thing, Clay, and it is a warning. It is a warning to all black folks in particular who play this game. What did we just hear in the news today? New allegations against Matt Gaetz. And Gaetz is going to slide, right? He's going to slide. We have now, 2-3 years worth of information that makes it seem highly likely that Matt Gaetz pays high school and underage women, allegedly, to engage in inappropriate behavior, or at least that he is partying with them in ways that are hard to comprehend, not to mention the son that he's had living in his house for a while, right? Like all of these things are swirled around Matt Gaetz, and he survives them. He's not black. You
Right.
can't do this stuff and be black and get away with it, Herschel. You can't do this stuff and be black and get away with it, Mark Robinson or anybody else. It will catch up with you, and no one is going to want to be your friend.
But let me say this, though, to the black Republicans out there, the black conservatives out there, this is what they think of y'all.
Right.
Mark Robinson, Herschel Walker, Larry Elder. And he didn't have accusations. I'm just saying.
Right.
This is what they think of y'all. They don't want someone who will hold them accountable. Can you imagine if Herschel Walker would have won, how he would have voted in the United States Senate? Can you imagine? Mark Robinson, all this stuff is disgusting and vile, but the things he was saying policy-wise about being stricter on the death penalty, the reason why they elevate them is because they know that they will do their bidding.
Yes.
And they will do it with joy. Colin Powell was famously booed at the 2000 RNC convention for mentioning affirmative action. So for all the black folks who say, I'm conservative, I'm Republican, this is what they think of y'all. They will uplift someone like Mark Robinson or Herschel Walker, who doesn't have the experience, didn't serve in office one in any way, shape, or form, but they think of this. They think of this. And that should let you know what they think of. No more Will Hurds. No more Michael Steels. None of that. They don't want any of that. They want folks like this who are buffoons on steroids. And they know exactly who they are. But they'll give them lots and lots of money with the hope that you will do our bidding because you're a black, because you make their constituents feel better about their racism. Well, if a black guy is saying it, then it can't be that bad. Well, look what so-and-so is saying. It can't be that bad. So this is what they think, all the black conservatives. And there are some out there, I can't name any off the top of my head.
Right.
I mean, there are some who still maintain that they're Republicans, like
Sure,
Will
Michael's
Hurd.
still a Republican.
Sure, yeah, Sir Michael Singleton, yeah. So this is what they think of you.
Yeah.
This is what they think of you. It's this. It's not you. I mean, Sir Michael, he's been on my show before. He was on Urban View. They fired him. They fired him in the Trump administration. This is what they think. They'd rather have Mark Robinsons than Sir Michael Singletons. What does that say? Why would you stick with this party?